All right, everybody, welcome to BO Boys for Wednesday, March 5th. Fuck it, it's a raw feed. We're doing it live. I'm Clayton.
Yeah, I'm Pat. So Clayton, uh, big weekend. Well, a quantity-filled weekend coming out this of movies this weekend. But there is a big movie, a big whether it does big box office, we'll see. But there is a full-on big budgeted studio release coming out this weekend, along with a lot of other stuff. So we got to get into a huge weekend preview episode. Are you excited for this box office weekend, this Mickey 17 centric weekend? How excited are you? Are you seeing all these movies that we're about to talk about?
I really wish that after, a weekend of people focusing on the Oscars, focusing on what they should be focusing on culturally, movies,
Mm-hmm.
and the call to arms that Sean Baker and even Conan O'Brien
Mm-hmm.
did to go to the theater. We need you. The magic's still there.
Yes.
This weekend is a big load of crap.
Oh wow. Okay,
And
so you're
that
going
is
there. Okay.
bad. That is
Okay.
bad. They got to work together. You got to work in unison here. There should have been a huge movie coming out this weekend that people wanted to see.
Yeah, or I mean, obviously, yes. And we haven't seen any of these movies. We're not critics, huh? So we don't
Huh?
know. Maybe Queen of the Ring, maybe Night of the Zoopocalypse. Maybe these are great movies. We don't know that. But there was no promotion on the Oscars this last weekend for any of these specific movies. I mean,
Mhm.
Mickey 17. How do you not? And even if this is not a great movie, it's not Bong Joon-Ho's best. How was there not Robert Pattinson at the Oscars last weekend promoting Mickey 17? Kill
Mhm.
him, and that's the perfect bit to do with a host like Conan. Have Robert Pattinson die multiple times throughout the Oscars telecast to promote Mickey 17. It's about a character who's used to be killed over and over again in the future or something like that. Kill him on the Oscars throughout the night. Every commercial break, you see Robert Pattinson get killed in a different way on stage.
Mhm.
Like, where was the promotion on the Oscars for these specific movies opening 6 days later?
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, was there I'm trying to remember if there was any big trailers for big movies during the telecast.
Nothing memorable. That's such a problem. We always talk about movie trailers dropping during the Super Bowl. And like obviously more people watch the Super Bowl than the Oscars. Don't at me. We understand that. But the people who watch the Oscars specifically care about movies. How are there not big trailers and big on-stage promotions for upcoming movies at the Oscars?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to make any sense because the Oscars, mostly at this point, it's I mean, it seems like they don't care about box office as we're seeing from the winners of the last couple of years. So, that synergy just isn't there either
Well,
because
well, well. Obviously, though, there is a huge James Bond movie opening this weekend, right? Because they devoted about 18 minutes of the Oscar telecast to James Bond theme song. So I take it to mean that one of the movies we'll preview this weekend is a new James Bond, right?
no, unless
Wow.
unless they are bearing the lead for some reason because they just are so confident in this Bond movie that they decided to call it Night of the Zoopocalypse.
Yeah, is that a 007 film? No, it's a Canadian animated horror kids film. It is not a James Bond film. Okay. Interesting choice by the Oscars to not promote Mickey 17 opening 6 days later, but instead to promote a unfilmed, uncast James Bond film that may open in the next 2 to 11 years.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, obviously the Oscars is over, but when you look at this weekend, it's just, what were they doing? What were they doing? Get it? Honor Quincy Jones, but maybe talk about uh in the lost lands, as well as talking about Quincy Jones on that Oscar telecast, because that's the movie that's opening this weekend, not The Wiz.
Well,
Not The
and
Wiz.
but well, here's the thing though, and they had a great opportunity because Bautista was one of the people who stood up there and read off, you know, a description of what was it, the Dune special effects? Was that his
Yes.
thing?
Yep.
He could have he's a star of this movie along with Mia Jovovich. He coulda snuck in a promotion.
It's crazy that there wasn't even a cryon, a lower third, that said Dave Bautista, star of In the Lost Lands, opening this Friday, March 7th. Just,
Mhm.
even if he's not going to say it, put a text up, put a movie poster superimposed behind his head. Just something to
Mhm.
let these 19 million people who care about movies know that this guy has a movie coming out in theaters in 6 days.
Yeah. I mean,
It's crazy. It's
what
crazy.
this Oscar telecast did was drive people to the tube sites to watch Anora in, various clip forms to go
Mhm.
to each scene on the tube sites. That's what
Uh,
it did. It didn't help theatrical, it helped the tube sites, and the
help the
tube
tube
sites don't
sites.
need any help.
Is that how you've taken in the Best Picture winner Nora so far? Is on what you call the tube sites, which I guess don't include YouTube.
No. No.
No, got it.
Yeah.
Um, so let's start talking about this plethora of under promoted movies. Well, let's start with the one that actually has gotten a pretty good amount of promotion, at least in terms of, I've been seeing trailers for this movie for what feels like the last 2 years. Mickey 17.
Mhm.
It's Warner Brothers. It's Bong Joon-Ho's follow-up to Parasite, for which he won Best Director and Screenplay and Best Picture. Robert Pattinson's in it. Um, it it feels a little like a dump. I mean, is that how
Mhm.
you're taking it? Is Mickey 17 feeling like a dump on the eve of its opening? Or does it feel like this is a movie that Warner Brothers is earnestly trying to get some audience for?
No, I mean, I mean, listen, I don't wanna be we would be very rude. We'd be very rude to Warner Brothers to say that this movie is not getting promotion,
Mm-hmm.
because it is,
It is.
right? It's in everybody's face. I mean, we have seen this trailer for this for months and months and months.
And months and months.
So you can't say it's a dump. They really were trying to get people excited. I think at this point they know what they have. They see the pre-sales, they know it's at the lowest end of the tracking, and they're sort of bracing
Mm,
for, "Okay, how much money are we gonna lose on this?"
yeah. Yeah. The early reviews on this, and we're not critics, ha, and critics
Huh,
aren't everything, ha.
huh,
Um, it's definitely not effusive. Did some texting the other night with our chief horror correspondent, Brett of The New Flesh, one of our favorite guests. He is a critic, huh? And
huh,
he saw an early screening of this. Let's just say he wasn't effusive in the text. Don't want to blow his review. You got to hear that on Roger and Me, and on Roger Ebert and Me, and The New Flesh. He'll talk about it there. One thing he did bring up that I think, Clayton, both you and I predicted from seeing this trailer 50 times, is that Mark Ruffalo is terrible in this movie. That is
okay.
one of the texts. And just from the trailer, this movie seems like it's a lot of big acting. And apparently, Mark Ruffalo does a lot in this movie. And I feel like his performance in the trailer does feel like that's probably the tone of Mickey 17. Do you think people want a movie that is filled with what Mark Ruffalo is giving in the Mickey 17 trailer?
No, no, I don't think a general audience ever wants that.
Mhm.
Those sort of movies never do well. That's why I'm always shocked when these sort of movies get released, because you just know that that's not something that people love. And
Mhm.
Hollywood continues to do it over and over and over again. I mean, they'll throw out whole genres because they get scared at how well they're going to do. And then it's like, westerns come and go for so long because they get so freaked out, but yet they'll continue to release these sort of weird action comedy, high concept, like people and like actors acting over the top poorly. They continue to release these movies, and maybe that's because big name actors like to do that sort of performance, but they never do well.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see how actors want to do these type of movies where they get to be comedically grotesque, and not
Yeah.
grotesque in a special effects way, but just in a grotesque acting way where they're
Yeah.
laughing and yelling in a big grotesque manner.
Mhm.
Um, so you get the appeal for the actors. And I guess I'm looking at the reviews, it's 84% right now on Rotten Tomatoes. So it actually isn't getting torn apart, but
He
it
has
doesn't
so
feel
much
like there's a
goodwill.
lot of enthusiasm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's and I have nothing against Bong Joon-Ho. Like, I, of course, like everybody, thought the Parasite winning Best Picture was one of the best decisions that the Academy has made in probably, like, 15 to 20 years. I mean, they
Mhm.
continuously make the wrong decision every year, and that was one where everybody was just shocked that
Yeah.
they made the right decision. And, so I have nothing against the gentleman, but yeah, I think this is just I just you'd wish that his Blank Check movie would be something that people would want to see.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll see. I mean, do we think Robert Pattinson, what does he mean going into this? He's obviously got the what was the vampire series? Breaking Dawn. What was the Twilight?
Twilight,
The Twilight series. He is the Batman. He is our most recent Batman. Whether he
yeah.
will be our next Batman, who knows, but he's our most current Batman. Does that draw anyone in? Are there any comic book kids who will go see Micah 17 this weekend because the most recent Batman is in this movie?
I mean, of course, there's going to be some, but I don't think it's at such a wide level that it's going to make this thing a hit, and I don't think it's a close enough performance to what that Batman performance was. I mean,
Mhm.
as much as I like Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson, they have the same box office pool as each other at this point, where they've had a post-Twilight career where they've done interesting indies, and then they dip their toes into big budget Hollywood filmmaking again, and they both aren't people that the general public run out to see.
Mhm.
Now,
Mhm.
if it was another Twilight movie, absolutely. I mean, if they ever at some point were like, "Let's let's do this. Let's get the band back together. Let's do another Twilight movie," maybe 5, 10 years from now, that thing does gangbusters.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tricky. That reunion's tricky because as a vampire, Robert Pattinson shouldn't be aging. Or wait, no,
Mhm.
vampires do age, right? They just live forever, but they could get old and decrepit.
Not I don't know much about Twilight, but I think in their universe, you stay the same age.
Right, you stay the age you were when you returned. The
Yeah,
Kirsten Dunst rule from Interview with the Vampire. Right,
yeah.
right. So he'd have to look the same, and Kristen Stewart is allowed to age.
Although I don't
But
know if she got bit or turned or whatever in that movie. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know enough about those movies. I'm sorry.
yeah,
But I
I'm
mean, de-aging at this point, you could de-age them. I mean, this isn't 50 years. Like, you could
right.
absolutely de-age them enough in post to make it seem like they hadn't aged that much.
Yeah, yeah. They have a baby, I think, in the movie. I think there is a pretty gnarly birthing scene, and I don't know if that baby would have to stay a baby, the baby vampire, when they inevitably do that reunion. Um, but that's for the filmmakers to figure out, and they should
Mhm.
definitely do that. There definitely should be a Twilight reunion movie in theaters, not on Max. It shouldn't be like the Friends reunion. Do it as a movie, not as a roundtable. But yeah, I think that he means something. Um, it definitely means more than Mark Ruffalo being a sporting actor. Mark Ruffalo, even though he's the Hulk, I don't. Do you think this weekend Mark Ruffalo will bring in or repel more ticket buyers? He obviously, people know him from the Marvel movies, but his trailer acting, I think, will turn away more people than his Hulk notoriety brings in. I think he's going to end up being a negative on the box office this weekend. Nothing against him, seems like a nice guy, or he's a monster, who knows, but um that's my guess, is that he's a negative like $40 this weekend.
I sort of disagree because I think there's some
Okay.
goodwill involved with him because look at Poor Things, which is a movie that ended up doing reasonably well for what it was. And,
Mm-hmm.
his performance there was bordering on this.
You're
That
right.
performance was way better.
You're
So I
right.
think they were hoping, oh, they're just picking a big trailer moment here, and then uh he might be better in this movie. And they're gonna give him the benefit of the doubt because he's a well-known enough actor. He's been nominated before. He's a guy that you give the benefit of the doubt to until you see a performance like this, maybe, and then the next time you see him, you're like, "Okay, I'm gonna,
Ooh.
you
Mhm.
know, proceed with caution."
I totally forgot about Mark Ruffalo and Poor Things, because it does seem like these are similar performances, and that one we all loved. He got the Oscar nom nom nom. That movie was a hit, and I think, though, he may have filmed Poor Things after filming Mickey 17, because the other thing about Mickey 17 is this is a kind of a bit crusty, off the shelf movie. And I don't have it in front of me, but I wouldn't be shocked if Mark Ruffalo filmed Mickey 17, then went to film Poor Things, tweak that performance a bit for the better. And
Mm,
now we're seeing the older, crustier, not as good version. And again, we haven't seen this movie. We're not critics, huh?
huh.
But we do trust Brett's text that Mark Ruffalo is bad in this movie.
Yes, yes.
Um, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. This is the big movie opening this weekend. We'll talk about a bunch of other smaller ones, but if anything's gonna sell some popcorn this weekend, it is Mickey 17.
Yeah.
And obviously we hope it does. The theaters need a little bit of a boost after these last few weeks. And we'll see. The other thing is, you look at Parasite, and that movie ended up doing pretty well for its budget, but that was a leggy movie, not an opening weekend barn burner movie. Like this, Mickey 17 is going to need to open higher, because it'll probably drop big. And I do
Mhm.
wonder if there's any chance that this could open over 20. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean, I think the over under we'll go with later is 17.
Uh-huh.
Is We'll use that as our over under. So, all right, there's a lot coming out this weekend. Um, so we already mentioned In the Lost Lands, Dave Bautista, Mila Jovovich, the Paul W.S. Anderson zombie futuristic horror action movie. Did you see the trailer for In the Lost Lands?
No. But I mean, it's not connected to Resident Evil, correct?
It's not, but it's got that feel. They say Resident Evil in the trailer. They say Paul W.S. Anderson, director of Resident Evil, Mila Jovovich as seen on Resident Evil. I think the trailer does use the as seen on logo that you
Mhm.
see on salad shooters and such. So they're definitely pushing to audience. It ain't Resident Evil, but it'll give you that jolt that you
Yeah.
like. So I think that could mean something to the people who go see every Resident Evil movie in the theater. Like, I think this will scratch an itch, and you don't want to leave itches unscratched, because then then you freak out, and sometimes people have been driven mad through unscratched itches. Like, that legitimately could put you in an insane asylum.
Yeah, and you got to pick scabs too.
You got to pick scab. So could this be a scab picking moment for these itchy Resident Evil super fans?
Well, when was the last Resident Evil movie?
All right, let's see that now. I feel like it's been maybe a few years. I'm looking up Paul W.S. Anderson's the numbers credit. So there was a Resident Evil movie that came out in November of 2021. So
Was that
that is
Raccoon City?
Raccoon City, and it did 17 million total domestic.
Now, I don't think Mila Jovovich was in that, was she?
Was she? I mean, I don't know, because Paul W.S. Anderson directed it, and they are good
Married.
friends and married. Okay. So these Resident Evil
Possibly
movies,
both, possibly not.
yeah, we can't vouch for their friendship.
Mhm.
So, and actually, Paul W.S. Anderson did not direct Welcome to Raccoon City. He was only the exec producer. So, probably the most recent proper Resident Evil with Paul W.S. Anderson and Mila Jovovich was Resident Evil: The Final Chapter, which came out in 2016 and did 26 million domestic. It opened to $13 million. So
Mhm.
that is a while ago. That's 8 years ago. But I would think a good chunk of those people are still alive. Maybe not. I mean, obviously not all, but I don't think they've all died off in the last 8 years.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, these movies, the Resident Evil movies, definitely have been on the decline. God, there's so many of them. Retribution did 42 million in 2012. Afterlife did 60 million in 2010. These are just the domestic numbers. The international numbers on these movies are out of control. Do you want to take a guess to what Resident Evil: The Final Chapter in 2017, what it did internationally? It did 26 million domestic. Outside of North America, what do you think that movie did?
What year was this?
This is the 2017 one. So Paul
Okay.
W.S. Anderson, Mila Jovovich, proper Resident Evil.
So China is in play.
In play in 2017. Yeah, in play.
120.
It did 287 million outside of North America.
Wow.
Got to over
Wow.
$300 million total. Retribution in 2012, 40 million North America, 198 million international.
So the one in 2017 got bigger.
Got bigger. Got bigger. That was, it looks like that is the biggest. Yeah. 314 million worldwide in 2017. That is the biggest Resident Evil movie.
That's insane.
Afterlife in 2010 did 295 million worldwide total. Yeah, those movies were consistently getting bigger in the 2010s. And then
Mhm.
Raccoon City, that's a tough one. Because that only did 17 million domestic, 24 million outside, 41 million total.
Okay, so that's why they sort of put that to the side.
Yeah.
I think the biggest issue with this movie is that there's just no awareness for it, because I saw one poster for it and I didn't realize it was coming out anytime
Mm-hmm.
soon.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know when this thing was coming out. It's a shame because Bautista, as we said earlier, he was on the Oscar telecast.
Yeah.
He had sneaky Oscar buzz for The Last Showgirl,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's in this. And it's sort of, I know these things don't really hurt him, but maybe something like this could sort of hurt him a little bit as a respectable guy.
I don't think so. I think that is just kind of what his career is that he's going to get lead roles in sort of schlocky sci-fi actioners, and then he's going to get good roles in auteur driven movies because they know he could act and he's a professional and he's always looking to improve his craft. There's just not that lane, or he hasn't had that breakout that puts him in the Statham, Jerry Butler category of action movies.
Yeah.
And he does sort of have this. He does like doing these junky sci-fi actioners. You know, he likes his Hotel Artemis type movies.
Is
And
that's sort of, I would not put that, I would not say that's junky
yeah, Jodie Foster
because
was in
Jodie
it.
Foster is in
Jodie
that.
Foster was in it. Yeah.
Now, does it actually maybe help him that his action stuff is a way lower grade than the Jerry Butler and the Statham ones? Because then you are pigeonholed as you're a mid-budget action guy, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's either like he does this schlock or he does critically acclaimed films, which can you think of any other actor who's ever had a career like that?
Who does either B straight to video level movies or best picture nominees? Right, because it's not like Chuck Norris was doing missing in action movies, but then also supporting roles where he had Oscar buzz in the
Yeah,
eight. You know, that's not what happened to him. Van Damme wasn't doing Double Team, and
in the
you know,
bedroom.
and in the bedroom, exactly. You know, Seagal was not in Pulp Fiction
Yeah.
alongside being in Under Siege 2 Dark Territory. So no, Dave Bautista has this very weird career where he's in arty movies where people like someday he's going to get an Oscar, and then he's in the land of the lost. So in the Lost Lands. Do you think there's any confusion in the Lost Lands and people who think this is a Land of the Lost reboot?
You just did it.
I just did it. I just did it.
So that's one person. And if you're playing the law of averages, 1 out of 2 people on this podcast had that confusion.
Right. So half the country is confused that this might be a Land of the Lost reboot.
Yeah.
Yeah, very possible. Um, yeah, I think you're right that the awareness here, there's a Vertical Entertainment release. Vertical Entertainment, they are what they are. I'm sure there's good people who work there, or they're all monsters. We don't know, but their movies don't typically break out. So, but you know what? Maybe this is a worldwide play, the way the other Paul W.S. Anderson movies are.
Here's the other thing, it's in theaters.
It's in theaters. Yes. Yes. So thank you, Vertical Entertainment, for putting this in theaters and not straight to Redbox or
Mhm.
Netflix dumps. So another movie coming out this weekend is Night of the Zoopocalypse. Clayton, did you see the trailer for Night of the Zoopocalypse? Do you have any idea what this is?
I mean, as soon as I saw that it was put out by a company named Viva Pictures, I knew it
Ye-
wasn't worth our time.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Not worth our time. I mean, do you know who uh right here is third billed as the voice of a sarcastic ostrich in Night of the Zoopocalypse?
You
Who
know I
what
don't. You
Scott
know I don't know
Thompson.
this.
Scott Thompson of The Kids in the Hall
Okay.
is getting a paycheck in this movie. I mean, is Buddy from Kids in the Hall not worth your time? Is that what you're saying live on air to the entire listening public.
Well, who's the leads of this?
The leads in this are someone named Gabby Cosmetis as Gracie, a young quirky Timberwolf, and then David Harbour as Dan, a gruff mountain lion. So I mean,
Oh.
you're a David Harbour guy.
Well, we have a very personal connection, me and David Harbour.
You do. And then otherwise, I'm not seeing anyone else. So Scott Thompson is the second most famous person voicing a character in this movie. Which, I mean, listen, I am happy to see Scott Thompson getting work in an animated film. Hope that is a nice fat paycheck.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, listen, Night of the Zoopocalypse, if all it ends up doing is funding Scott Thompson being able to do a Buddy Cole live tour next year, paying his hotel bills to be able to take his show around, great. Then I'm happy this exists. It is based on a Clive Barker concept that all these animals pop out of the ground and are zombie animals. So I had a hard time telling whether this is truly kids focused or if this is a, like a heavy metal situation. Remember that cartoon?
Yeah. Well,
Cat.
did you just assume
Felix the
it's
Cat.
a kids movie because it's a cartoon? Like, because
100%.
does it say anywhere that it's a kids film? Like, what's the rating?
I can't tell, but watching the trailer, it does seem like this is still kids focused. I don't think this is I can't find a rating on this movie. I don't think this is a Fritz the Cat. I don't think that's what Night of the Zoopocalypse is. I don't think we have a Fritz the Cat situation where this is an X-rated adult theater, get Fred Willard in here to watch this animated movie. No, it is rated PG. Okay, this is a PG movie.
Okay.
So it's based on a Clive Barker concept, but we don't have a Fritz the Cat situation here.
Yeah.
So do you think that confusion is good for the box office of Night of the Zoopocalypse, that watching the trailer, it takes a minute to know whether or not this is indeed a kids movie or a Fritz the Cat situation?
I don't think confusion is ever good.
Yeah.
With a trailer. I think most people have very small windows of curiosity for something, and if they're the least bit confused, they're out.
Yeah. So far we're 0 for 2 on these last two movies in terms of lack of confusion. In the Lost Lands, the confusion, is this a Land of the Lost movie? Night of the Zoopocalypse, is this an X-rated Fritz the Cat situation?
Well, Pat, I don't think we're gonna get much better with the next movie we're gonna talk about.
What are we talking about? What do you want to talk about?
We're talking about the new Angel Studios release.
Yeah, rule breakers. So this movie, I don't think we have to go in depth on the plot. It takes place in Afghanistan, I think.
Yes.
And it's about educating girls in Afghanistan. Great. Love to see it. I think it is the Angel Studios scam that is revealed in the second half of this trailer. That's the interesting part. That's what caught our eye. So you watch the trailer, they do a trailer, scenes from the movie. You all know what a trailer is. Then halfway through the video, it's just the actors stating their names, talking direct to camera, and they are telling us the Angel Studios scam. And in this scam, people could buy a ticket, an advance ticket, and that will enter them into a contest for a dream vacation.
Mm-hmm.
But also and this is where it becomes unclear. It's Did you understand what the rest of it is, where they could then win a dream vacation for a teacher or mentor of their choosing? They
Yeah, so
also just get entered in the lottery, or they automatically get a vacation if you buy a pre-sale ticket?
or they have to take them with them. I'm not sure. So the thing is, it's 100 grand is what the prize is. It's 100 grand trip of a lifetime dream
Right,
vacation. And they say that's, it will enter you into the sweepstakes to win this. But then
right.
additionally, you can give this to a mentor or a teacher of your choosing to say, thanks for changing my life.
Right.
But they don't go into whether it's 2 separate vacations that are worth 50 grand each and you can
Mhm.
go separately, or that you're forced to go on vacation with your teacher. Because there's
Yeah.
a lot of people who'd be like, "I loved my 4th grade teacher. They showed me how to code," which I guess is this movie's about, is like girls learning to code or whatever, I don't know.
Mhm.
And then they figure out they have to go on this vacation with their teacher, and that's maybe a different thing, right? You know how sometimes, when you were younger and you had a really close friend and, you could, hang out with them all the time, but you never wanna live with them. You wouldn't wanna
Yep.
share an apartment with them. I think it's maybe similar, like, do you wanna go on a vacation where you're in a bathing suit for a week with your 4th grade teacher?
Right. Right.
I think there is, like, you'd love to see pictures of them on their vacation because they changed your life,
Mhm.
but you don't wanna be the one who has to take the picture of them on vacation.
Right. And it's not clear in this movie trailer for Rule Breakers whether or not uh whether or not that you have to share a hotel room with the teacher.
Yes.
That is made unclear, and I think when that's unclear, you kind of have to default to, we probably are sharing a hotel room,
Mhm.
because Angel Studios is probably not shelling out for two different hotel rooms for this quote unquote dream vacation with a teacher.
And you'll have to call down to get a cot because 'cause they're probably not gonna be like, "Oh, here's 2 beds." You're gonna have to call down for a cot.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're sharing a bathroom.
Mhm.
You're sharing that little computer desk slash eating area in the hotel room.
And if you're say this is your 4th grade teacher.
Let's say that.
Because there's if a teacher's changed your life, it's usually not something that you think of in the, year after it happens. You're usually
Hmm.
reflecting and thinking, "Oh, I'm an adult now. I'm 25, I'm 26." And I remember, Mr. Robinson and how Mr. Robinson really, showed me that it was cool to read and all these different things.
Hmm.
But and you give him this vacation. It's like you're 25 now and Mr. Robinson is 20 years
70.
older, 70, something like that.
Hmm.
And so you don't know how well he functions in a
Right.
vacation. Like, if the guy tries to jump off a waterfall, will he die?
Right.
Has he gotten a drinking problem? Probably.
Right.
Like, there's so many things that can happen in that span of time between inspiring a young kid and then being invited on vacation with that same adult.
Right.
Like, you can become an entirely different, worse, more depressed, more, just sad person
Right. Right.
in that span. So you're not inviting the same person that inspired you. You're
Right.
you're
Right.
inviting a sad sort of shell, a husk
Hmm.
of a person,
Right.
or
Right.
somebody who completely went nuts during the pandemic. So this teacher that inspired you now will be telling you about 5G, will be
Hmm.
telling you about the plandemic, will
Yep.
be telling you about, uh, "Hey, have you heard about Pizzagate?"
Yep, yep, you gotta watch this YouTube video. That's the thing, is a teacher who inspired you 20, 30 years ago now has just got a list of YouTube links that they're wanting to show you in this hotel room from their cot, which is
Mhm.
at the foot of your bed
Yeah.
on this dream vacation. So, and that's the thing is you buy an advance ticket for this movie, you're in that contest, and you could end up winning it. And you could end up having to go on this dream vacation with probably at this point is a Twitter brain infected, crazy ex-teacher.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
And that's a risk you take when you buy an advance ticket for rule breakers.
That's the thing is, I mean, I think that is gonna drive walk-up business if
Mhm.
people don't want that to happen.
Right.
That is that the thing? Is it a sort of reverse scam where they're like, nobody's gonna wanna take their guardian or not their guardian, I'm sorry, their teacher, their mentor on a vacation. So, let's just have these people walk up. But I don't
Yeah,
see why that would be beneficial because you want the tracking to be high.
I don't think that Angel Studios wants this to work. They want people to buy the advance tickets. I mean, that is what w- drove Sound of Freedom a couple of summers ago was that great scam where every ticket you buy represents a kid who's been kidnapped and you could pay it forward. Like that was the classic. They'll be studying this at the Wharton Business School in 30 years. Classic movie ticket scam. I don't think Angel Studios, we analyze everyone when their movies come out. This is not topping that. The be forced to take an ex-teacher on a vacation where you share a Marriott hotel room together. I don't think that's topping the
Yeah.
Sound of Freedom ticket scam. Then also, as you go along in this trailer where the actors are forced to explain the bylaws of this ticket scam, they start telling you that the earlier you pre-order your tickets, the more entries you get into the contest. So there are different dates that give you different amounts of entries into this drawing.
Mhm.
And it gets to a point where it is just so thoroughly confusing. And you can tell the actors who are in this movie and having to explain this ticket scam, they barely have a grasp on what they're saying.
I mean, I bet you in this movie, these talented actors had to memorize all of this dialogue about computers
Mm-hmm.
and gigabytes and, whatever,
RAM. Yeah.
RAM, and they did it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're given the sides for this scam promo,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "What am I reading? What is
What am I
this?
reading?
This doesn't make any sense."
What am I reading? What is this shit? I'm sure one of these actors, because they've had a long day, and then they're given these sides about this ticket scam that they have to read about getting a vacation hotel room with your teacher,
Mhm.
and they're just like, "What is this shit? What am I reading?"
Yeah.
W- You know, um, it's tough. I mean, listen, there's pluses and minuses to being the star of an Angel Studios film.
Yes.
You got to be in a movie, that's great. You got to read these complicated contest rules at the end of a trailer. Sometimes that's tough.
Mhm.
Um, Another movie opening this weekend. This is the last quote unquote wide release that I'm seeing here from Sumerian Pictures, something called Queen of the Ring. And this is a biopic of, I think, 1950s era female pro wrestler Mildred Burke. And um, it's a wrestling picture. Um, Wrestling is hot right now. You got Cody Rhodes, you got big, wrestling's in a boom period. Do you think that carries over
Wait, you're not gonna
to,
mention the biggest thing happening in wrestling right now?
I mean, do you think the John Cena heel turn
Yeah.
carries over to this Mildred Burke biopic, Queen of the Ring, this weekend? That people are just so, because I mean, that hit the mainstream, that people are talking about that. They're yapping about it on ESPN, on Morning Zoo Radio, Stern, Limbaugh, Mike and the Mad Dog, all the big radio stars are talking about this. Does that bring some movie going audience? Because they're like, wrestling's big, Cena heel turn, Cody Rhodes, let's go see a wrestling picture.
I mean, I think if they at the last minute slapped on the woman who inspired Cena to turn heel,
Mm,
then you got something. It doesn't matter if it's real or not.
right. It's wrestling.
It's wrestling. It's real to me, damn it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That guy's not in the movie. That it's real. It's still real to me, damn it. That performer from that classic video, he's not in Queen of the Ring, right? They should have hired him to play an old-timey wrestling promoter. Just have him do the lines. I want to thank you for everything you done. It's
Yeah.
still real to me, damn it. Get that in the trailer. I think that would have boosted ticket sales to see that guy from that wrestling fan from that clip is going to be co-starring in a movie. It could only help, right?
When you're Sumerian, you need gimmicks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a gimmick.
Yep.
That's a bigger draw than I see Walter Goggins is in this, and I know he's having a moment with being in White Lotus. But sorry, Walter Goggins ain't gonna put butts in the seats. The it's still real to me, guy's gonna put butts in the seats.
Yes. Yes. Especially if you bill him that way.
Mhm.
That it's still real to me, damn it, guy, as so and so, former NWA commissioner character.
Mhm.
Put him third bill. There are some current wrestling figures who are in this, not John Cena, not Cody Rhodes. But there is, let's see here. We've got one of your faves, local Pittsburgh gal made good, DDS, DMD, Britt Baker is in this
Britt
movie.
Britt Baker, who I heard
Yeah,
is hated in the locker room, but loved in my heart.
she's in this movie. You've got another AEW wrestler, Timeless Toni Storm, is in this. Do you think any of these, you know, wrestling figures could get some audience to this movie? I want to
I
go
mean,
see Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. I want to see Timeless Toni Storm.
I think in Pittsburgh, I mean, I think in the Burgh, I mean, I think it'll over-index there.
Yeah, I think that could only help. But yeah, no giant current wrestling stars in this movie.
Mhm.
But we'll see. I mean, it's a thing that's hotter than usual right now. Don't know what kind of release this is going to get. I haven't been seeing trailers for this anywhere. Like you said, Walton Goggins, Josh Lucas is also in this. Does that mean anything? Josh Lucas in a female wrestling picture?
No.
No. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, Sumerian entered pictures. Do we think this is 1,000 screen release that our friend Chris Klemmer is going to therefore have to see this
That's
weekend?
a
He might
great
have to see
question.
like 5 movies this weekend. That guy might be unable to schedule meals this
No.
weekend.
I mean, they're all saying wide, but I just can't believe that. I mean, he'll have to see Rule Breakers
Mhm.
in the Lost Lands, but I can't imagine he'll have to see Night of the Zoopocalypse or Queen of the Ring, because I think Night of the Zoopocalypse, when they say wide, um, yeah, I just don't think those 2 are going to open over 1,000.
All right, so let's play this game here. The non-Mickey 17 releases this weekend. So you got In the Lost Lands, Bautista, Night of the Zoopocalypse, animated, Queen of the Ring, female wrestling picture, Rule Breakers, Angel Studio Scam. Those 4 movies, rank them from highest to lowest in terms of what you think the screen count will be. for those? You don't have to give the numbers, but just the ranking. Which one of those is going to have the most amount of screens, lowest amount of screens?
Rule Breakers, number 1. In the Lost Lands, number 2. Queen of the Ring, number 3. And Night of the Zoopocalypse, 4.
Interesting. Wow. So you really think Night of the Zoopocalypse is a um total non-entity just because it's animated? I almost think it could be the first or second most amount of screens out of those 4 movies. To me, Queen of the Ring is probably going to be the least.
Well, are you putting Night of the Zoopocalypse over Rule Breakers?
Not over Rule Breakers. Okay. But I would guess second. I think it's going to be in more
Over
screens.
In the Lost Lands?
I think so because that's such an international play, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I guess let's get into whether we think any of these movies will affect the actual, top 5, top 10 of the box office this weekend. And let's get into our official weekend prediction. So, Clayton, would you like to go first or second on your top 5 predictions with a number for Mickey 17, of course?
Yeah. I will go second.
All right. So, number 1 has to be Mickey 17. We got to end this Brave New World, 3 weeks in a row this movie finished first. It made 14 million last weekend. Mickey 17 has to open bigger. It has to. And I think it'll get to Mickey 19. I think Mickey 17 gets to 19 million this weekend, opens number 1. Then number 2 is gonna be Brave New World by default. Probably make 9 million. Then number 3, I think I'm going The Monkey is gonna stay at number 3, jump over Last Breath. Number 4, I think is Paddington in Peru. And then number 5 will be Rule Breakers. Because I think, God, it's not a great scam, but I think Angel Studios has enough of a built-in audience that it'll be number 5, probably make, 3 or 4 million. So that's my top 5. I think Last Breath falls totally out of the top 5 this weekend.
Okay. I'm going to go on the very low end here with Mickey 17. I think it makes 16 million. I think under that, you're going to see Brave New World. Then I'm going to say the kiddie movies do well. I'm going to say that Paddington in Peru and then Dogman and then The Monkey. That's my top 5.
Okay.
I don't think any of the other movies we talked about make the top 5.
Wow. I love that Dogman gets back in there. So we got a monkey, we got a Dogman, but we don't have Zoopocalypse animals in the top 5. Yeah, we'll see. I'm very curious to see what the screen counts and the amounts are for the non-Mickey 17 new movies this weekend. So that'll be exciting.
Real quick before we go, I think there is one email that we should take a look at.
Yeah, I think there's a couple. I think we should land some of this, but let's start with the email you think we got to jump right into.
Well, Javier did another survey.
Yes.
And I think that's really important. He's doing boots on the ground surveys. This is for March. It's the beginning of March, so this is good. We're doing this in a good point. He says, "Dear BO Boys, I'm back with another school survey, this time for the films coming out in March. For this one, we have Mickey 17, Novocaine, Snow White, and A Working Man. Mickey 17 came in with the most votes, with Novocaine in second and A Working Man in third. Snow White got 0 votes, with many people displaying disinterest in it. I'm still unsure about Mickey 17's prospects, but here on campus, there's at least some interest in it, which is nice to see. I also do want to ask, are there any specific upcoming releases that you're curious about in how the college demographic is responding to them? Asking because I could go around and ask if you guys want more specifics. As always, keep doing what you're doing. Yeah, we'll think of some because I do think we want to get the college. We should think about some of these big movies coming up and send an email to Javier and be like, yeah, ask these kids about this.
Yep. I I mean, here's one off the bat. It wasn't in his March survey, but Javier, I would love for you to tell us, do any college kids care about the Alto Knights?
Mm.
De Niro playing two different gangsters who are not twins but do look pretty similar to each other. How much on-campus interest is there in that movie? So from his survey, the one thing I would almost throw out here is the lack of interest for Snow White, because college kids not caring about this Snow White movie, that makes total sense. They're too old for it, and they don't have kids that are dragging them to it. So
I
they are the least expected to be interested in Snow White and the Seven Companions.
Listen, I have this movie in the draft. I
Mhm.
should be in the bag for this movie, but I disagree with that because you're telling me college kids didn't see the Beauty and the Beast live action? You're telling me they aren't gonna see a Lilo and Stitch live action? You're
That's
telling me they're
different.
not gonna see they didn't see The Lion King? I mean, what makes it different?
I think though, I
They
think
saw Little Mermaid live action?
something like, yeah, but I bet you if this survey was done about the Little Mermaid on a college campus, it also would get pretty low ranking compared to what it actually did at the box office. I think Lilo and Stitch could be different because that could be the perfect nostalgia age for kids who are in college now. But Snow White, it means, it's not like a specifically when a college kid now was 6 type of movie. It's just one of those movies that's been around forever. I don't think so. I think college kids are going to be the least interested in general in a Disney reboot. It's just like, that's not what you're into, man, when you're in college. So I don't think the 0 votes mean that much for this movie. It's all going to be kids and middle-aged people who kids are dragging to the movies.
Okay.
So with a great survey from Javier. Good to see Novocaine second. I think that is a good sign. And that feels like college kids have to like Novocaine for that movie to overperform.
Yeah.
We did get a email. We got a couple of emails about the Oscars. One of them was from wannabe oh boy Jason, had a few quick thoughts. He said a win for Flo, hell yes. But he did have a Snow White thought. He said, you guys called it on your spring episode with the stars of Snow White presenting together. The Disney PR machine is officially off to the races. And that is true. We saw Gal Gadot and Rachel Ziegler present a category together. So Disney, they are in full Snow White mode right now.
Mhm.
And then Jason also asked this question, Adrian Brody, does his speech hurt him in the future for getting hired? Do 2 Oscars make him bulletproof to being arrogant? I mean, we ripped this guy's speech a new one on our last episode. Clayton, what do you think? Is Adrian Brody's terrible, record-breakingly long and boring Oscar speech hurt his career more than the Oscar itself helps him?
It's almost even worse. I think it does nothing. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's even worse. Like, if somebody could point to that speech and be like, "Oh, that speech lost you a gig," it would it would mean something, but it was so much nothing and just an annoyance that I think it didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah,
think that's so much worse.
that's the thing. A year from now, like we've said, he's going to be making Redbox movies with Chad Michael Murray. And that's what he would have been doing, whether he won the Oscar or not.
yeah, this Oscar means absolutely nothing for him and his career, and that is way worse.
Yeah. Yeah. We did get an email from wannabe oh boy Max, subject sourpuss pill face speech. And he did send us a great screenshot of Brady Corbet, who was at the Oscars not wearing that fucking hat that Clayton is currently wearing now, but a shot of Brady Corbet while Adrian Brody was making his Best Actor speech. And Brady Corbet does have that sourpuss pill face on while
Mhm.
his star is accepting the Oscar. Uh,
I mean,
this
that's the
guy's
most
a piece of work.
relatable it's the most relatable he's ever been.
It is. Yeah. It is the one time where all of America had the same sourpuss pill face as Brady Corbet during
Yeah.
Adrian Brody's speech. So thank you, Max, for that great screenshot. Max also said in another email, in memoriam omissions from the Oscars, does note that McDonald's documentary filmmaker Morgan Spurlock was excluded, along with Tony Todd, Candyman himself, and Kevin Smith actor Shannon Doherty. Any of those, Morgan Spurlock not being there, the man, you know, died of.
It's impossible he died in 2024. That's impossible.
Oh, he
There's
just died like a month ago.
no, he died like 3 years ago.
Morgan Spurlock death. Let's search that here. Uh, Morgan Spurlock died May 23rd, 2024. So after the last Oscars. He died in the in memoriam period for this year's Oscars. So
Wow.
why wasn't Morgan Spurlock on the in memoriam? Was it a conscious decision that we cannot show this man, or did they just forget? Or was there a McDonald's influence? Did McDonald's lean on Disney, lean on the mouse, lean on ABC, and say, do not put his face on that effing screen?
I mean, I feel like there was a corporate interference for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did the guy deserve to be in the in memoriam? I mean, the best thing for him is to have been snubbed because people are actually talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
If he was in there along with some, sound technician, no offense, nobody be talking about Morgan Spurlock.
Right,
But
right.
now, I mean, I think that's the thing is like getting snubbed, someone like Tony Todd, who I think has been in enough movies that he should not have been snubbed.
Oh, he should have been in there 100%.
But this gets people talking about him. Like, I think this is
Mm-hmm.
actually because listen, there's some giants who died this year, and Tony Todd would have just been sort of stuck in the middle somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's a snub. I think getting snubbed is sort of a weird honor. And with the internet, you'll get your propers even more so because people don't do dedications to people that were in the in memoriam because they
Right.
think they got enough time, which is like 2 seconds. Now, everywhere you're looking, people are tweeting about Tony Todd. I met him at a con. He was a great guy.
Right.
Tony Todd, underrated horror villain, Candyman, all these things. He's getting the tribute he deserves because he got snubbed.
Right. Right. That is true. I mean, same thing for Morgan Spurlock. If he was
Mm,
in the in memoriam, we wouldn't be talking about him. No one would
no.
be talking about him. And instead, you've got people tweeting out Morgan Spurlock. I watched him eat a quarter pounder 15 years ago at my
He was a
McDonald's.
he was a dickhead, whatever.
He,
Maybe he wasn't. He was a nice guy, I don't know.
who knows? I'm sure some of the days he ate a Big Mac, he was a nice guy, and some days he was a dickhead.
Yeah,
And both those stories deserve to be told.
yeah.
So, yeah, I think you're right. At a certain level, a snub in the in memoriam does do more for your posthumous career than being in the in memoriam.
Yeah, and I think the Trachtenberg thing was just she was the Farrah Fawcett to Gene Hackman's Michael Jackson.
And who knows? She may have missed the deadline for this year. They made an exception for Gene Hackman, so we will see on that. Last email I want to get to is just we got an email from wannabe oh boy Anthony. He writes, hey guys.
Hey
I
guys.
think the deep dive doc series into freestyle releasing is an excellent idea. And when you get to Oogie Love's app, I may be of service to the BO Boys. Not only did I see the Oogie Loves in the Big Balloon Adventure 12 years ago, I also did so while on acid, which coincidentally happened to be the last time I did acid. So what I'm getting at is if the BO Boys need me to relive this hallucinogenic experience and watch Oogie Loves again while on acid, I will answer the call and go on another adventure with Toofy, Zuzi, and Gooby. You all are, of course, welcome to join. Smell you at the BO, wanna BO boy, Anthony. Amazing email. Of course, he's talking about on our episode with Jeff Bach. We got into it about the freestyle releasing distribution company and whether that deserves a special, long form documentary series from us. I think we are
Mhm.
definitely leaning in that direction now.
Yes.
Um, Clayton, how great is our audience that someone answered the call and offered to do acid on a recording of our prestige documentary series?
That's great. I mean, how do we not? I mean, we already got Jeff Bach, who had an intimate relationship to one of those movies.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got him as a guest. We've got Anthony as a guest now. I mean, the
On
roll
acid,
call on
tripping
yeah.
balls.
So I think this series has to happen, and I think if you are somebody who's also had a relationship or an interaction with one of these movies, email us because maybe we'll put you on one of the episodes.
Yes, yes. And you don't, okay, here's the thing.
Hmm.
You don't have to do acid to be part of our freestyle releasing prestige audio documentary series. But if you want to, we won't say don't do acid
Yeah.
while you record with us.
Yes.
Um, Obviously, Anthony has a very specific reason to do acid on our series because he did acid when he watched Oogie Loves and the Big Balloon Adventure.
Mhm.
Um, so yes, if it makes sense. He's got to do acid again when we rewatch it together. Should we also partake? He made us the offer. Are we doing acid when because I've never seen Oogie Loves and the Big Balloon Adventure. Should we do it on acid? Should we watch it on acid, record on acid? Maybe just
Well,
watch it on acid, but record in a sober state.
yeah, I was gonna say because I think that running a podcast, hosting a podcast is like dealing with heavy machinery.
Hmm.
You can't do it on substances,
Right.
right? So we would, if anything, do the acid while we watch the movie and then record sober.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, right now we don't have a separate producer on the ones and twos. We're doing it all ourselves. Obviously, we have VP of interns Christopher cutting the vertical clips, and he's doing a great job there. But we don't have a Baba Booey, a Fafa Fuhai, a Justin producing our show.
Mhm.
So we can't really be on acid when we record right now.
No.
You know, if we had a Fafa Fui or Justin producing, boom, yes, we could record on acid.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I love this. Oogie Loves. Someone will be on acid in that Oogie Loves episode, that freestyle, the documentary series. Um, so email us, the boboyspodcast at gmail.com with your predictions, your boots on the ground reporting, uh, your insight into this possible freestyle distribution docu-series. Email us, the boboyspodcast at gmail.com. Follow us on social media at the boboyspod. Once again, VP of interns Christopher, killing it with the vertical clips. Subscribe to the Substack. New articles coming soon. Catch up on some of the things we've written over the last few weeks. Great articles there. Subscribe to the Substack. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are YouTubers. Hey, guys.
Hey guys.
So you get full episodes. You get to see right now, you could be looking at Clayton in that fucking hat on your YouTube, on your television. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, the BO Boys Network over there. 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And I think that is it. I think that's all I've got right now.
Pat, I've finished. You've said it all.
Yep.
There's nothing left to be said.
Awesome. I could take off now.
Except for until next time.
We'll smell
you
at the box office.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.